Saat ini, Anda sedang mendengarkan radio era baru. Green Radio Line, Beyond the Limit.
Hi, Carters. It's really honor to talk to you again and meet you in the persons. And now I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm Lydia, as a host from Green Radio Line, and then I would like to say really thank you for letting us to talk to you and give us your time. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, let me ask you. Okay.
Thank you for
How?
having me.
Yeah. And how are you there in Canada?
Good. Yes, I think in Canada it's summertime here right now. So there's we also are very impacted by the coronavirus here, but the season allows for us to, especially the region that I'm living in, it allows us to get outside and stay active and try to get outside and be around nature as much as possible during the summertime. So that's been a lot of what I've been doing lately, is on the weekends going out and hiking and swimming in the ocean, and
That's great.
trying to get out as much as I can. So yeah.
So the pandemic is not like a big issue in Canada, isn't it?
I'd say comparative to other regions, it's not so bad. Our cases per capita are relatively low compared to other regions such as the States, South Africa, and India. But you still have to be careful. We still exercise relatively social distancing and wearing masks when you can social distance as well. But we have been fortunate to not have the severity of outbreaks as some of the other regions.
Okay, great. And so now we are in the midst of pandemic, and is the situations are so impacted to your daily activity or something like that? But you already mentioned it. Can you a little bit specific about the impact or the previous months when it's getting worsening? And can you?
Yeah. So a few months ago, you mean? Yeah. So I think in terms of the effect on Canada and our region here, we saw the greatest effect in the months of March to May of this past year. Our economy unfortunately did have to shut down, similar to many other economies in the world. And it impacted a lot of local businesses. Restaurants were forced to shut down. Travel came to a halt. Some of the borders between provinces were forced to close. Okay. So it did take quite a big toll on not just the economy, but a lot of the sort of the mental health of a lot of people living here as well. Not being able to socialize, not being able to go out, it definitely did have an impact in a multitude of ways. But fortunately now we're seeing that start to dissipate, and we're able to go back to relatively normal routine and normal conditions right now. So it's definitely been we're still not there yet. There's still a long ways to go, and things are no means back to normal, but it will be a gradual process for sure.
Okay, that's great. And yeah, Carter, before we go into talk here, can you introduce yourself to our listener?
Definitely, yeah. So my name is Carter Kirilenko. I am a Canadian documentary filmmaker and producer. I'm also a recent graduate from the University of Waterloo in Canada, and a lot of my work focuses on actually storytelling and leveraging the human story to showcase how environmental issues are having an impact on human life. So, I find that the reason I started my work was because I found that a lot of messaging around environmental issues was fairly negative. It was, doom and gloom. There was a lot of scare tactics being used to showcase all of the problems that were taking place around the world in relation to the environment. But a lot of research and study shows that using statistics and using these, scare tactics to sort of push people into acting or changing their behavior doesn't actually work. So I wanted to find a way to leverage storytelling to actually focus on the human story and showcase how environmental issues were impacting human life. And then through that, trying to actually cultivate social change and behavior change. So that's where a lot of my work focuses on. I've recently just finished filming 2 short documentaries. One is called In Your Palm, which focuses on the haze crisis in Indonesia and how that is linked to the palm oil industry. And then the other film that I recently finished producing is called Looser, The Last Place on Earth, which is focused on the looser ecosystem in northern Sumatra. And this film actually focuses on a park ranger team called the Looser Conservation Forum, they're a team of park rangers that have done an incredible job in protecting the looser ecosystem, which is the last place on Earth where elephant, rhino, tiger, and orangutan still coexist together in the wild. So a lot of my film work is around conservation as well as messaging for positive behavior change in relation to the environment.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. And Carter, our interview today will be aired in the Bumi Kita or Our Earth programs in Green Radio Line. Before we continue, maybe I will tell you a little bit about Green Radio Line itself. So Green Radio Line, we are a media that concerns about nature's environment issues, forestry, climate justice, and etc. But we are also share the inspirational story about people who start to make a change, just like you right now we're interviewing with. And maybe what is your activities right now?
In terms of my career or my
your career.
Okay, yeah. So currently my as I mentioned, full time. I work on as a filmmaker, director, and producer on short films. Distribution phase. So we're looking at rolling these films out to different festivals across Canada, the United States, and other countries as well. And then I also film a variety of different projects as well, such as music videos, short films in terms of for nonprofit organizations. And my other profession that I also do as a career is I work for a solar energy company in South Africa. So we're focused on providing solar panels to schools and businesses in emerging markets to provide them with clean and affordable energy that is cheaper than what they would find from using energy or dirty energy from the grid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. And let me ask you, how is the environment issue in your own perspective itself?
I think, in my opinion, it's a very broad question. There's a lot of environmental issues that are taking place right now. In my opinion, I think environmental issues stem from a problem of human apathy.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I think there's a disconnect between people and nature. And I think that causes many of the environmental issues that we face today. The fact that people don't necessarily understand the real value that nature can provide to us.
Yes.
And we often take that for granted. So, there's countless environmental issues. You could deforestation, climate change, plastic pollution, overconsumption. There's like, the list goes on, right?
Yeah.
But I think at the core of a lot of these issues that we are seeing is this issue of apathy, that we as humans need to develop a greater sense of compassion and empathy for the natural world, such that we can actually better understand it, understand these
Yes.
values that nature can provide to us, and through that be more motivated to protect it, right? Because as humans, we will never want to protect something that we don't love, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you can't love something that you don't understand. So you know, in my perspective, there's many environmental issues, but it comes from a sense of apathy. And I think the way around apathy is through visual storytelling, is through educating and showcasing, and even visiting these natural places that we do have, so we
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
develop a greater sense of connection to them.
Okay, that's a really good opinion. Oh my God, I'm just so amazed by you. And so you are a young generations, and um, I'm really curious about what made you interested in the environment issue itself for the first time. What is your reason to be more concerned about these things?
I think that for me, you know, I was very fortunate to grow up in nature. I live in Vancouver, which is in Western Canada, and we're very close to the mountains, to the ocean, to national parks. So I grew up experiencing that, you know, that nature, and I was always connected to it. And as a kid, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to be a wildlife biologist at times. And I ended up actually going to school for environmental business. And I think this, like, and then obviously this stemmed into me pursuing a career in environmental filmmaking. So, you know, if I was to actually look at the trajectory of my career and look back to like why I actually am doing what I'm doing, a lot of it starts with, you know, my childhood and where I grew up. And
Okay.
I'll bet you that, you know, a lot of the other environmentalists and people in this field will often say the very same thing, in which they had these experiences growing up, or even when they were older, and there was something that they experienced that really connected with them
Yeah.
through nature. And that actually leads them to go into these fields, which is what happened with me as well.
Okay. Okay. Good. Is there any changes that happens to your lifestyles after you got the information, after you know what is the problem in our environment? Is there any changes that you?
Definitely. Lots of changes that I've tried to incorporate in my life. By no means am I am I great at it, but I do my best whenever I can. I think that, you know, the way that I look at it is, sometimes sometimes living a sustainable lifestyle can be very
Uh-huh.
daunting,
Okay.
because there's so many things that people say that you need to do in order to prevent, you know, climate change, or save the planet, or reduce your impact.
Yeah.
But in my eyes, the reality is that I think as humans, we should identify what sort of activities or behaviors or changes in our life can we make that work for us and also make a large impact, right?
Okay.
So for me, this came from, you know, I basically did research on, okay, what is some of what's the greatest impact in terms of contribution to climate change? And a lot of this stems from the agriculture sector, the agricultural sector. So, so beef and animal production releases massive amounts of methane. So simply cutting out certain meats from your diet can actually create a large impact on your carbon footprint as a human. And then also looking at where are your, you know, if you have a pension or investments, where are those investments actually
Yeah.
being made? So like, if you're owning an ETF or you're owning certain investments, are they going towards the oil and gas industry, or are they funding clean and sustainable and renewable energy projects? So looking at, where your financial portfolio lies, looking at where your diet lies, and just little things like carpooling to work, and really being conscious of where you're purchasing your food. Is it being grown locally, or is it being shipped from across the world? So there's so many things that people can do and to live a more sustainable and eco-friendly lifestyle. I think it's just really a matter of identifying what works for you and choosing that and then running with it,
Okay. So you're not eating meat anymore, is that right?
I try to avoid
Okay.
beef and pork when I can,
Mm-hmm.
just because the production of those meats has the largest contribution to climate change through methane emissions compared to some of the other animal agricultural meats that we consume. So I do try to cut those two meats out of my diet.
Yeah, and this kind of topics, many people is not, like not getting this informations. Like, can you share your message about this?
In terms of the reason why I do it, or
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so I mean, for me, like the biggest thing is that if you actually look at the agricultural sector, and you look at how beef is produced, we need to be careful to look at trace this, basically, if you were to trace your hamburger back to the actual point of growth, where is it coming from? And very often, especially in American fast food chains and various different retail stores across Canada and the United States, a lot of this beef production stems from tropical regions such as the Amazon rainforest. And a lot of beef production is actually being cultivated in regions where there was once forest. So this means that it's the similar concept of the topic of the problem with palm oil in many cases, but with beef, a lot of companies will actually clear cut, burn the forest, very carbon dense forest, in order to grow methane production. There's a mass amount of greenhouse gas emissions that are released in that process of just cutting down and burning the forest. But then you also get a double hit in your actual impact to climate change when you're raising cattle, such as cows. They actually release methane, and a lot of methane through burping, or basically on the other end. And methane is I think 24 to 30 times more potent to the climate change compared to carbon dioxide, which means it packs a pretty big punch.
Yeah. It's worse.
Exactly. So in terms of its actual impact, like we just need to be careful, like looking down the supply chain and recognizing what sort of outputs, what sort of emissions are being created from that production. And if it involves, mass amounts of methane and the destruction of rainforests, that's a pretty good sign that you probably shouldn't be having that in your diet. Because it releases so much. It's basically, its impact is so large to the climate, right? So that's sort of the rationale for me. And there's plenty of well-researched papers as well, and academic peer-reviewed journals, that will sort of back that up as well. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And the next one, from what I know, you already have finished your movie in your palm, you already mentioned this before, and you
Mhm.
are the directors and also the producers of this movie. And can you tell about what is the progress of the movie, and can you tell about the more specific about this movie itself?
Mm. In terms of the storyline, or
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
okay, yes, for sure. Yeah, so In Your Palm is it's a short 24-minute documentary film. It was filmed over the span of 1.5 years in 5 different countries, mainly focused in Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
And this film largely focuses on the human impact of the palm oil industry, as well as showcasing what sort of solutions are available to these impacts that are displayed. So the main focus of our film is looking at how the slash and burn techniques that are used by palm oil corporations across different regions of Indonesia
Mm-hmm.
are actually impacting local communities, how those slash and burn techniques are contributing to climate change,
Mm-hmm.
and contributing to this haze crisis that's I'm sure many Indonesians are familiar with, which happens quite frequently. So this film is really looking at how this industry, when not operating sustainably, has an
Mm-hmm.
impact on on human life surrounding its operations. And we dive into the stories of different local community members of how they've um, been forced to change their lifestyle and unfortunately face very hard situations, just because they simply live in these regions that are
Mm-hmm.
next to palm oil plantations. And a large message of our film is, and what we believe is very important,
Yeah.
is not to necessarily bring down, say that the palm oil industry should just stop, because that's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Because many of us recognize the palm oil industry employs millions of people across
Mm-hmm.
Indonesia, Malaysia,
Yeah.
and different parts of the world. It's also the most efficient vegetable oil that we have on the planet. So it uses less land, less water, less energy
Mm-hmm.
compared to sunflower oil,
Mm-hmm.
canola oil, soybean. It's a very efficient crop. The problem
Okay.
stems from, when it's produced unsustainably and irresponsibly. And what we want to focus on is showcasing consumers that there is a solution to actually create a more sustainable industry.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we hope to showcase through our film, as well as our social impact campaign that we will be launching after the film as well. So, I think in summary, it is a film that really focuses on the environmental impacts through a human lens, but offers solutions to those impacts for viewers that are interested in actually making a difference and taking action.
Okay, okay, that's great. And I'm really interested and I'm really curious why you choose Indonesians as the place that you make the In Your Palm movie itself. And because for me, the whatever the problem of palm oil and also forest fires, it's mostly only in the local or national news, but often it's not an issue in the international one. Why? Can you tell
Mm,
me? Mm-hmm.
definitely. There's a few reasons. So maybe I'll start with, you know, palm oil. Basically, 60. I believe it's approximately 60% of all palm oil produced or found on the global market originates from Indonesia. I
Mm-hmm.
think between Indonesia and Malaysia, it's about 80 to 85%. So, in terms of like focusing in on the problem itself, it was
Mm-hmm.
very clear that Indonesia and Malaysia were the regions in which we had to go explore this further. Um, but in terms of, I think, Livia, you bring up a very good point of that,
Mm-hmm.
why is this not being expressed on a more, national level. And I think that um, I think there's a lot of reasons behind it. I think that you do have a lot of great environmental outlets. I know Rainforest Action Network, Greenpeace, WWF has done an incredible job of sharing the issues behind this industry, as well as solutions to viewers. So I don't think it's entirely. I don't think it's entirely looked past on an international standard, or in terms of an international audience. I just think that it's not really been raised to the extent that it should be, and that's also a lot of the reason why we created this film in the first place, was because a lot of Canadians didn't even necessarily know what palm oil is, and where it's coming from, and the impacts that it's causing. So that was a big reason for us. The other thing that I'll maybe mention as well is that the awareness of the solution is also, I think that is the problem. I think that a lot of people might know that palm oil is associated with deforestation in some cases, and these environmental impacts. But at the end of the day, that knowledge only goes so far, right? I think the problem is that people don't know what to do about it, and they're not motivated to do anything about it because they don't know what the solution is. So, I think that is the real gap that we're trying to fill. Is, of course, we need to amplify this problem because we need to get people to understand why it's important. But on top of that, how can you create a more sustainable industry? How can you create a more ethical industry? And I think that's one thing that really needs to be pushed out further.
Okay, that's great. That's amazing. So, what kind of changes that you really want to achieve through your short movie that already released, and your calls about the internationals and the local, and even the local people in Indonesia regarding to the problems of palm oil itself, and also for forest fires?
Definitely. So I think I'll speak to our international mission first. Our real international mission is that we want to inspire as many people as we can to demand that companies switch from unsustainable palm oil to sustainable palm oil. And the way that we do this is to raise awareness on what does sustainable palm oil look like. And a lot of this can come from what we call certified sustainable palm oil, a large certifying body that takes up most of this market is the RSPO, which I'm sure you're familiar with. The problem with the RSPO is that only, I believe, 19% of the market, the global palm oil market, is actually certified under a sustainable palm oil. That means 81% of all palm oil being produced and supplied around the world is going untraced and unregulated in terms of an actual certifying body, and that's a big issue. So I think there are standards in place that have been created by stakeholders from across the industry, including corporations, NGOs, local farmers and growers, who have come together to actually put together this set of standards that say, this is what needs to happen in order for a palm oil corporation to be certified as sustainable. And a lot of the times that involves no deforestation, adequate labor policies and conditions and working conditions, and a more ethical supply chain as well. So there's many standards that basically all of these stakeholders have come together and said, this is what needs to happen. And the RSPO provides a certifying body to say, hey, this company, if audited properly, is operating sustainably. And the only way that consumers will ever know a palm oil company is operating sustainably is either if the palm oil company says, okay, I'm operating sustainably, or if a third body comes in and says they're operating sustainably. As humans, most likely we trust the third body that says, because anyone can say anything about themselves. So, I think it's really important that we raise awareness around what is sustainable palm oil, what does it look like, and how, as consumers, when we're purchasing these products, can we be aware of it and demand for it.
And it's also the problem in Riau province itself, Indonesia. Many company didn't use, like a good sustainable in their processings, and this is also the demands, the big demands in Indonesia itself. So it was a great point, though. And then, can you tell us a little bit about your message to the Green Radio listeners about this short movie? How we can watch this movie and also participate in your campaign?
Definitely. So currently we are screening our film through in Canada and the United States. So, however, afterwards we will actually be releasing the film online, which hopefully will be free to watch for everyone. So we suspect that will probably take place around December 2020 to January of 2021. Once it goes through the festival route, we will have it screened online for people to actually watch for free and understand the message that we're trying to put forward. And the way that I would suggest most people can find out about that is through our website, which is www.inyourpalmdoc.com, where we will be posting information around the release of the film publicly, as well as our Instagram account, which is at inyourpalmdoc. So those two ways are ways in which people can stay updated with the film and be notified as to when it's being released to the public.
For this film itself, how many times did you make this kind of film? So the film is 24 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And how long you prepare for these films?
That's a good question. So yeah, we started, it took a long time to make this. We started researching in January of 2019, and then we started production in August of 2019, so 8 months of pre-production. We filmed on and off for about 2 to 3 months, and then we had about another 8 months of post-production. So it came to about 1.5 years of production. It was a very long project, but very rewarding at the same time. Yeah.
So it takes like 1.5 years for this movie.
Yeah, I'd say like from conception, it was probably closer to 2, but yeah, between 1.5 and 2.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
that's a long way too. But and finally, this is the last questions that I got for you. So maybe you can give your about your directive or also your calls of changes, or especially to young generations about these environment issues.
Yeah, this is a tough one because there's a lot to say, but I think that, I think it's important for us to think of like what kind of world that we want to live in. And as cliche as it might sound, in 10 to 20 years, do we want to live in a world where, it may not be safe to swim in the oceans, or it's and these beautiful national parks and rivers that we have close by because they're polluted, or they're damaged. And I think that's, really think of a world that we want to live in. And I would personally encourage a lot of people just to connect back with nature, as simple it may sound. Spend more time in nature. Try to understand, that feeling that you get when you're outside, and that feeling that you get when you're immersed in a natural environment. And a lot of people might not have that close by, but it even stems from spending time in parks nearby. Because I think that's really kind of what stems our human connection with the natural world, is spending time with it, being immersed in it, and understanding it. So that for me is my advice for young people, is to not get too caught up in our bubble, and the rush of our daily lives, and kind of forget what what really provides us life in the first place, which is this natural world, right? So that would be my call to action. In terms of a more tangible request, I would say that having young people, and personally, I believe that civil action and peaceful protesting is a very powerful way to create change. And I think that,
Carter, sorry.
yeah.
Is there any sounds there? Because I can hear your voice so good.
Oh,
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Okay. Can you continue what you're saying? Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I'd say my last call to action would be to to have the courage to go to the streets, join protests in your local community. If you think that climate change is an issue, if you think it is a problem that needs to be solved, then I think speaking up and joining protests is a very effective way to create change, because policy makers and governments do listen to what the people have to say, and if there's enough people that are actually taking to the streets and protesting, then that can create change. And we've seen that happen in many different parts of the world. So really, there needs to be a strong movement, and I think it really starts from taking to the streets, and figuring out ways in which you can actually adopt sustainable behaviors and sustainable lifestyle decisions into your own life. So I would say those three things are a mixture of my call to actions for young people.
Okay, that's a great point too. Qatar, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate what you have been shared with us. There is a lot of things that I can learn and also implement it in my daily life, and also maybe it will happen too to the listeners of Green Radio Line. And yeah, you're just doing such a great and amazing work. I'm really motivated by you. Seriously, I personally motivated by what you're doing, and I really want to make a change by myself, because I have been made young people just like you, and which is amazing. Like,
Thank you, Livia. Well, I'm also very inspired by the work that you do, and the action that you take as well in your own community. So I think that's, for me, when I came to visit Indonesia, and to see the work that you do, I was also very inspired by your action. So definitely keep up the amazing work.
Okay, so you are, and then thank you. I think it's enough. But before we leave the meeting, can you give a little message or something that you want to share, that what you want to say about Green Radio Line to the Green Radio Line media that concerns about environment issues, and we will use this record as our broadcast message from you.
Okay. Oh, you're putting me on the spot here, Olivia.
Yeah.
To your listeners, just any message around the environment.
Yeah. Or about your aspirations, what you want this media to be, or something like that. Please.
For sure. Okay. Yeah, I think I would really encourage our listeners to really connect back to nature, develop a sense of compassion to our natural world. And through this will stem this motivation to want to protect it. So I do encourage everyone to go outside more, connect to your national parks, and really understand the true value that nature can provide us. And I think this will be the very key stepping stone to creating a more sustainable future.
And can you say, like, you introduce yourself first and you shares your message, please?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So my name is Kirilenko. I'm a environmental documentary filmmaker from Canada, and I encourage everyone to go and connect with nature, really spend time in the outdoors, connecting with the places that you cherish and love, because through this is going to stem a motivation and an inspiration to want to protect these places and create a more sustainable future.
Okay, thank you so much, Carter, for your time. I think that's the end of our interview.
Okay. Thank you so much, Livia, for
Thank
having me
you.
on.
Yeah, thank you,
Okay.
Carter.
I'll chat to you
Bye.
soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah.